Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Amina and today I'm doing something a bit different. I'm actually reacting to the Guardian's 2021 UK University League Tables. I used them when I was deciding what university to go to, and I think they're interesting. We'll discuss a bit more about what I think about them and how best to use them. I think, just to summarize it, I don't think it's wise to just kind of look at the top university and say that's where I want to go. I think there's a lot more nuance to the results, and I'll break down sort of what to look at when deciding where to go. I know lots of you guys have just finished your A-levels or just finishing your undergrad and maybe deciding what university to go to for your masters, for your PhD, for your undergrad. So it is interesting, I think, to understand how to use these tables, because I find that sometimes students just want to go to the top university, not necessarily the best one for their course, and not necessarily the best one that has the best outcomes for their course either. So yeah, I hope this will help. I hope this helps in kind of identifying things to look out for the universities that you are thinking about going to. So as I said, I'm using The Guardian. I think it was released a couple months. I don't think it's brand new. I just came across it recently. Yeah, I think it was released. They release it every year, and it's I guess the most trusted one and the one that kind of contains the most kind of concise information. So if you want to see more videos like this from me, then don't forget to press the subscribe button. I post every Wednesday and every Sunday, and I'm gearing up for sort of the summer and getting ready for the new academic year. So if you're someone who's interested in content for the new academic year, productivity, essay writing tips, etc., then don't forget to keep on watching. So let's get started. The Guardian University Guide, as I mentioned, is probably the most popular guide for university ranking. I'm just going to read a couple of sentences from their website. And they say that basically they use 9 measures of performance. And if I take a look at what those 9 measures are, some of I will just mention 1 or 2. It's things like, are you satisfied with feedback? So the feedback from your assignments or your essays. Are you satisfied with the teaching? Are you satisfied with the course? An interesting one is also your career trajectory. So where have graduates gone after finishing that particular course? So those are some things that they look at, which is obviously really interesting and obviously something important to think about when deciding what university to go to for your particular degree. So they bring all of these measures together, and then they rank each department, and then they rank the whole university as a whole. So you can go and look at departments more specifically. So for example, let's see what the departments are. They have subject areas like accounting and finance, biosciences, anthropology, chemistry, dentistry, technology, medicine, engineering, and they're broken up into different kinds of engineering. So depending on what department it is that you are going to be entering, you can go and look at those specific tables, but you can also look at the university as a whole, which I think is also important to look at. Now for 2021, there were a couple of things that were changed in comparison to the previous years, and they changed a couple of things. One is to do with career prospect. Traditionally, they looked at where graduates ended up 6 months after completing the course. However, now they look at it, what did they say it was? Was it 15 months? Yeah. So there's now a new survey called the Graduate Outcomes Survey, rather than the Destinations of Leavers Survey. And it contacts graduates 15 months after graduating, so that's like a year and a bit. And they say that because it's so far from when they graduated, a lot of the response rate is significantly lower. Contact details have been lost or changed, and so they get a much lower response rate from these career prospects. So they've looked at a certain number, and they've taken that department as having enough information if there's 22.5 or more respondents. And then the second one is the National Student Survey, the NSS. It's conducted between January and April, and it gives student satisfaction, so to do with the university course and their overall how they feel about the course. Again, they kind of took COVID into consideration, and they looked at when the statistics were collected. They said for the most part, only about 20% of responses were taken after the pandemic had begun. So this was obviously previous year, so it hadn't yet really affected the data. So it will be really interesting to see what happens next year when you take into account the diabolical situation in the universities over the past 12 months to 16 months. So those are 2 things. So anyway, so let's look at the actual table itself now that I've given a bit of a background, because I think it's important to understand sort of what these tables show. I'm going to put it on the screen here so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. Let's take a look. I always like to look at the before and after, so I like to look at sort of what year, ranking a university was at last year compared to this year. Okay, so let's take a look. Oxford is number 1, used to be number 3 last year, so gone up a little bit. Well done, Oxford. St Andrews number 2, that's stayed constant, and Cambridge is now number 3, used to be number 1. So Cambridge and Oxford have done a little swapsy, but they're always at the top, aren't they? So that's not surprising. And then Durham's up there as well, again, not so surprising. LSE is an interesting one. So LSE actually climbed quite a bit. Last year they were 19th on the table, and today they are 5th. That is pretty impressive, from 19 to 5th. That would be interesting to see sort of what it is that caused that jump. I'm not going to look into the details, but it could be like maybe the graduates are going to a lot better career roles, or like satisfaction's a lot higher. I'm not sure, but that's quite a large jump overall. Bath is number 6, and then you've got like Warwick, Imperial's gone down a little bit, but still top 10. Lancaster, I did not realize Lancaster was also up there. Then you've got Bristol's done a really good job as well. They've gone up from 23 to 11. That's awesome. So I'm gonna look for like the London universities, just because I guess I went to London, and you know, London is where it's at. So UCL is now number 14 from 22. I remember it would always be at like 20. UCL was always hovering at 20 points, but it's gone up to 14. Well done, UCL. Again, I wonder what caused that jump, and that would be interesting to find out. York, Exeter, Manchester, etc. I'm still looking for London universities. This is quite, they're really low. Sheffield's quite high as well. Where's King's? Oh wow, okay. King's is 42, used to be 63 last year, and gone up to 42. So again, a pretty big jump. This is the thing, see, like if you were to ask a medical or dentist about King's, that's like probably a top university, or it is a top university. I think King's is the best in the UK, mistaken for dentistry. But as you can see, it's 42 overall, so that's not that great. There probably would be a course there that if you were to go to, you'd be going to a really bad university. Like, you know, it's important to take these things into consideration, and we'll look into a bit more depth in a second. Queen Mary is 68, Birmingham City, Essex, etc. That's interesting to note. But obviously, like, you know, it's good to look at the overall rating, because that's, I guess, it is a prestigious university. You know, for example, going to Oxford, it's important to go to a prestigious university. But let's take a look a little bit more at the specific scores. One thing I wanted to look at was the satisfaction with teaching and the satisfaction with feedback, because one thing that we do at the Page Doctor, and if you guys don't know, the Page Doctor is my business. It's an academic consultancy, all things academia, to help you succeed and to help you graduate with whatever grade it is that you want to get. We have had students come in and come out with us getting grades that they never thought that they could. Yeah, I'll leave links for all that down below. But one thing that we have realized is that feedback is just not done well at all universities, and let's take a look at that. But I don't know what it is, but okay, I do know what it is. This is a whole thing, but I find that like lecturers, course leaders don't give adequate feedback, and when they do, it's really like bitty, it's not specific, it doesn't help or give any like true guidance to the student. It'll say something like, you need to expand on this particular paragraph or this idea, without explaining like, how do you expand? What does expanding mean? Do you want me to be more critical? Do you want me to be more evaluative? Do you want me to be more descriptive? Like, what do you want me to do? And that's what one of the things that we do at the Page Doctor is, to give you that specific tailored feedback. So let's take a look at this. If you look at the teaching column, most of it is in the 80s. So for the top universities, it's for the most part in the 80s, which, okay, that's fine. I mean, teaching is teaching. As long as they can give you that information, it's fine. But the feedback is so low. So if you look at feedback, like even for LSE, which is the top university, it's in the 60s. All the other universities are all in the 60s as well. Yeah, 60. They're all just really low when it comes to feedback, and I don't know why that is, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at a bit more. Why is it that students don't receive the correct feedback? Because surely if you give a student feedback that allows them to build on that essay, then they next time don't need as much feedback. And then the other thing that I wanted to look at was the career after 15 months. Now, again, I don't know how good this data is, just because, like I said to you, it's such a low number that they've sort of taken. But it says here, it's percentage of graduates who find graduate level jobs or are on further study at professional or higher education level within 15 months of graduation. So for the top universities, the thing that's quite consistent, I think, is for top universities, this value is very high. So if you look at like Imperial, Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, King's, UCL, like those universities are all in like the 90%, and then the universities that are a lot lower tend to be the universities that are also towards the bottom of the table. So that does say that, like, you know, if you had to choose between two universities and they were both like offering you a very similar thing, definitely go for the one that is better overall, because, you know, it is more prestigious and it does look better to employers. So another thing I want to look at was actual courses. So you can pick a subject area. So I'm going to go for biosciences just because that's what I did. But if you look at biosciences, you can see that the best university of biosciences is actually St Andrews, and then it gives you the courses that they have within biosciences at St Andrews. So they have like a BSc in biology, ecology and conservation, molecular biology with a year abroad, and so you can really take a look and see what other courses you could pick from that particular course, which is quite nice. That's really good actually. 92.9% of students from St Andrews are satisfied with their course in biosciences, which is amazing. Like, that's why, you know, when you just want to decide on what university to go to, look at the particular course or the particular department as opposed to like the overall university. Let's see what's towards the bottom of this. Actually, the penultimate from the bottom is St George's University. They've got biomedical sciences and their satisfaction is 69.7, which is actually the second lowest of the whole, you know, table. So, and that's interesting considering that St George's is a medical school, so you'd think that their biosciences department would also be as good. You know, they probably have similar lecturers, and a lot of the students would maybe do an intercalated year within that biosciences department. So that's interesting, and that just goes to show, you know, don't just go to St George's because you think you want to do medicine. Actually, you're gonna have a horrible 3 years. You might not even do medicine, so you just, you know, wasted your time. A lot of like Queen Mary's quite low down there as well. So what I recommend is, you know, when you're looking at these courses, really look at the specific, and that's your course, and then look at the overall, and then kind of like decide between two of them. Let's look at another one. Let's look at medicine. I think that'd be interesting. So, okay, Dundee University is the top university. I thought it was King's. Where's King's? So Dundee University is the top university in the UK for medicine. That's pretty good. They've got a really high score for pretty much everything. Oh, actually another really good thing is the staff to student ratio. That's another interesting thing to look at. So that's the number of students per member of teaching staff. And you want that value to be low. You can see here that Dundee is 7.2. That means 7.2 students per one teaching staff. Whereas if you look at St George's, which is the highest on the other end, 12.6 students per one teaching staff. So that's like almost double. So you can imagine how much impact that would have. Edinburgh, 5.9, UCL 5.9, Cambridge 6.9 students per teaching staff. And that's gonna really impact so many different things. That, like, it might impact things like how much feedback you get, how much one-to-one time you get, how much like face-to-face tutorials that you get. Because obviously if you've got 100 students and you only have 4 members of staff, that's going to be very different to if you have 100 students and if you have 8 members of staff or 10 members of staff, right? It's a very, very different ratio. So that's also an interesting thing to look at as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to stop there because I feel like I'm speaking and rambling a bit too much, but let me know what you guys thought about that, and let me know like if you've looked at tables in that detail. There's a lot more that you can actually look at. You can really play around with different subjects and specific courses, not just subjects, but specific courses in specific universities. I think it really helps when you're trying to balance out. I get so many emails, I got an offer from King's and I got an offer from UCL, which one should I go to? I want to just say, you know, go to UCL because I think it's maybe better, but actually if you look at the specific course, you might find that King's is better. You might find that UCL has a better satisfaction overall. You might find that actually the staff to student ratio is a lot lower here, and so that might be, if you're someone who wants a bit more sort of one-to-one and maybe wants a bit more sort of feedback, that might be better as well. So definitely look into it into more depth than just thinking I'm going to the top university. When you're actually in the course, that doesn't really matter very much. If anything, it matters, it's very negligible, like how much actually matters. Anyway, if you want to see more from me like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and let me know if there's anything else that you want me to kind of comment on or kind of talk you through, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.